Massive object flying straight toward our sun. The Manhattan-sized object is called 3I Atlas, and during observation, scientists have been seeing it change color and even grow a cometary tail. Their findings have led to some belief that this object may actually be made by another life form.
On Halloween night, a strange light reappeared in the sky. After 8 silent days behind the sun, 3I Atlas returned, and nothing about it made sense. Telescopes across the world caught its faint glow, only to realize it was breaking every rule scientists knew about comets. It moved differently, shined brighter, and seemed to carry a mystery older than the solar system itself. 9 separate anomalies appeared, each impossible on its own, yet all happening at once. Together they defied logic and rewrote the book of comet physics. Was this just nature behaving strangely, or something far more deliberate waiting to be understood? When 3I Atlas was first spotted in July 2025, astronomers thought it would be another quiet interstellar visitor, just like Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. But what began as a routine observation soon turned into one of the most confusing mysteries in modern astronomy. As it approached the inner solar system, telescopes from Hawaii to Chile started tracking its strange motion. Its orbit suggested that it was not born in our sun's neighborhood, but had traveled for billions of years through interstellar space. Then, suddenly, in late October, it vanished behind the sun during solar conjunction. For 8 days, Earth was blind. No telescope, no satellite, no radar could see what was happening. When the object finally reappeared on Halloween, the world was not ready for what came next. Its brightness had changed so dramatically that even amateur astronomers could detect it with small backyard telescopes. Normally, comets grow brighter slowly as they heat up near the sun, but 3I Atlas behaved differently. It lit up like a flare, 4 times brighter than expected, and the change happened almost instantly. Scientists at Lowell Observatory in Arizona compared the data with past comets and found no match. Its light curve didn't follow any known pattern, suggesting that something inside it or something controlling it was acting with precision. The global astronomy community went on high alert. NASA, ESA, and private observatories scrambled to coordinate observations. Radio telescopes began scanning for signals, while optical ones recorded every photon of light it emitted. The results only deepened the mystery. Its color was slightly blue, a shade that usually indicates high-energy activity, but there was no sign of fragmentation, no debris, and no gas cloud that could explain such a burst. Some scientists suggested that the sunlight might have triggered a massive chemical reaction on its surface, while others wondered if it had simply turned on. By early November, the data confirmed one thing: this was not a typical comet. Its path across the sky was too precise, almost as if calculated to avoid detection during its closest pass by the sun. Every previous interstellar object had moved chaotically, pulled and twisted by gravity. 3I Atlas, on the other hand, seemed to glide in silence. Astronomers called it the quiet traveler because even its tail, normally a storm of dust, looked unnaturally clean and thin. Something about its behavior hinted at control rather than chaos. As the days passed, the story began spreading beyond scientific circles. News outlets called it the comet that broke the rules. Social media exploded with theories, from alien probes to hidden NASA missions. But behind the noise, professional astronomers were focused on a single question: what was this object made of? Its brightness, color, and trajectory didn't match anything recorded before. Instruments in Chile and Spain detected unusual infrared patterns, suggesting that its surface was reflecting sunlight in an unfamiliar way. If those readings were correct, it meant that 3I Atlas was covered with a strange layer of material, something that would soon be revealed as the key to everything. Now, as more telescopes turn toward the mysterious visitor, scientists are preparing to examine what lies on its surface. The next discovery would shock them even more. What they found was not ice, not dust, but something that had no place on a comet at all. When scientists finally examined what 3I Atlas was made of, they expected to find the usual ingredients of a comet: ice, dust, and rock. Instead, what they discovered left them speechless. The surface was coated with a strange dark shell about 15 to 20 meters thick, something no one had ever seen before. It wasn't just frozen debris drifting through space. It looked like a hardened crust made of organic molecules that had been slowly baked and reshaped by cosmic radiation for billions of years. Each particle had been altered by the violent energy of the galaxy itself, forming what one researcher called a fossil forged in starlight. Computer simulations run by European and American teams revealed that high-energy particles from supernovae and black holes had bombarded this object for as long as 11 billion years. Those impacts tore apart its original compounds and rebuilt them again, over and over, until what was left was a dense outer shell of carbon-based material. This crust wasn't just a thin coating, it acted as a shield, protecting the interior from further radiation damage. That meant the 3I Atlas we were seeing wasn't raw material from another star system. It was a survivor, wearing the marks of a journey older than our solar system itself. The discovery raised more questions than it answered. How could a fragile comet keep such a thick layer of processed material after billions of years in space? And why was that layer still intact after passing close to the Sun? Normally, intense heat would cause volatile gases to burst out, blowing away surface dust and exposing the fresh ice underneath. But in this case, the crust held firm. It barely lost a few meters of material during its closest approach. That defied every model of how comets behave. To many scientists, the implications were staggering. If this shell was truly billions of years old, then it was older than any known planet. It meant that we were not just studying a visitor from another solar system, we were looking at a piece of ancient galactic history. Some even suggested that this crust could preserve molecular records from before the Milky Way had its current shape. Each layer might tell a story about the galaxy's violent past, like tree rings recording the passage of time, but the crust also created problems. Because of it, every measurement humans make of temperature, brightness, and chemical content might be wrong. What we thought we were seeing was only the surface, not the original material inside. It was as if the comet were hiding behind a mask made of its own scars. The more we studied it, the more it seemed that 3I Atlas was deliberately concealing what lay beneath. Now, with this strange shell revealed, astronomers began to wonder what secrets it was protecting. If the outer layer had been transformed by radiation for billions of years, what could possibly remain untouched inside? And what if the story hidden beneath that crust wasn't about destruction, but design? When the chemical data from 3I Atlas finally came in, scientists couldn't believe what they were seeing. The comet's gases didn't match anything known in the solar system. Instead of water vapor dominating the readings, carbon dioxide was more than 7 times higher. That made no sense. Every comet ever studied had water as its main component, but this one barely had any. It was almost dry, like a rock that had forgotten what ice was. This discovery alone would have been shocking, but it was only the beginning. The spectral scans revealed even stranger things hiding in its thin atmosphere, unusual ratios of nickel and iron that looked eerily similar to the alloys humans use in heavy industries. Under normal conditions, nickel and iron are born together in the hearts of exploding stars, forming balanced pairs. Finding nickel without much iron was nearly impossible in nature. Yet 3I Atlas showed a clear imbalance, as if someone had selectively refined it. Some researchers tried to explain it as a rare supernova signature, while others whispered about something that couldn't be explained by stars at all. Adding to the mystery, scientists detected traces of carbon monoxide and organic molecules coating the surface, creating a red reflection pattern that no other comet had ever shown. It was as if its skin was painted with burnt chemicals from a laboratory that never existed. The numbers became even harder to defend as coincidence. The probability of all these features appearing naturally was less than 1%. Each anomaly on its own could be written off as a fluke. But when every one of them appeared in a single object, even the most skeptical researchers began to question the rules. Some thought the answer might lie in extreme radiation chemistry, where cosmic rays had rearranged atoms in impossible ways. Others wondered if the comet was made of material we didn't understand yet, something forged in a place older and colder than any star system we know. But a quiet minority began to ask the question no one wanted to voice: what if these patterns weren't natural at all? The comparison to human-made metals was too strong to ignore. Laboratory spectra showed nearly identical nickel to iron ratios to those used in aerospace alloys. The surface also reflected light in a way that mimicked structured materials, suggesting organization rather than chaos. Of course, no one dared to claim it was artificial. Science demands evidence, not imagination. Still, the data refused to behave. The deeper the analysis went, the clearer it became that 3I Atlas was not just rock and ice drifting through the void. It was something far more deliberate, something shaped by time or intention or both. Every new measurement seemed to widen the gap between logic and observation. The comet's chemistry wasn't following the same book as the rest of the universe. And if its surface had already rewritten the story of radiation and matter, what else could its structure be hiding? The next mystery would come not from what it was made of, but from the path it chose to take. When astronomers began to calculate the path of 3I Atlas, the numbers didn't make sense. Its orbit was retrograde, moving opposite to the normal flow of planets, yet it stayed almost perfectly aligned with the ecliptic plane within just 5 degrees of precision. That kind of balance wasn't random. In fact, simulations showed that the probability of such an orbit forming naturally was less than 0.005%. The comet wasn't tumbling through space like most interstellar objects. It was threading through the solar system like a needle through fabric, weaving between planets as if following invisible coordinates. Each turn, each alignment looked deliberate, and that was what terrified astronomers the most. Its journey took it past Mars, Venus, and Jupiter in a sequence that no one expected. The flybys were so exact that computer models called them planned encounters. Every planet's gravity should have bent its course slightly, but instead its trajectory remained stable, almost self-correcting. Some researchers speculated that hidden outgassing jets could have balanced it, but no gas clouds were detected. The path didn't drift. It adjusted itself, holding the same smooth curve through the inner system before swinging back toward deep space. It was as if something was guiding it, or it was following a map no one else could see. Astronomers at NASA and ESA compared its movement to thousands of simulated comet paths, and none matched. A few tried to explain it as a cosmic coincidence. Maybe random forces had created the illusion of control. But when the data was plotted, the alignment looked too intentional. The object passed near each major planet at distances that optimized observation, yet during Earth's best viewing window, it disappeared behind the Sun. To many, that felt like more than luck. If someone had wanted to avoid direct observation while still allowing indirect study from other vantage points, this was the perfect route. The deeper the analysis went, the stranger the numbers became. Its orbital inclination, its velocity vector, and even its rotation period seemed harmonized in a way nature rarely achieves. The object moved too smoothly to be chaotic, too stable to be accidental. The term planned trajectory began to circulate in professional papers, though no one wanted to attach their name to it. In private discussions, some scientists admitted that it reminded them of spacecraft maneuvers controlled, purposeful, and efficient. Of course, that didn't mean it was artificial, but it did mean that it was behaving like something designed for precision travel. Even more curious was the timing. The moment it reached perihelion, Earth was on the wrong side of the Sun, completely unable to observe. By the time we regained visual contact, it had already completed its closest pass and was heading outward. The coincidence was astronomical in every sense. Statistically, the odds of that geometry happening naturally were smaller than the chance of rolling 10 dice and getting the same number on all of them. To the scientific mind, that was almost impossible, but the universe, it seemed, had a strange sense of timing. If the orbit of 3I Atlas wasn't the result of chaos, then what shaped it? Was it pulled into this path by forces we don't yet understand, or was it following a route written long before humans learned to look up? The next chapter of its journey would only make that question harder to ignore. When telescopes finally focused on 3I Atlas near its closest approach to the Sun, scientists saw something that broke every rule of comet behavior. A bright jet of gas was shooting in the wrong direction toward the Sun instead of away from it. This anti-tail, as astronomers called it, wasn't an optical illusion or a trick of perspective. The jet was real, and it moved with incredible precision. Normally, solar wind pushes dust and vapor away, forming a tail that streams outward into space. But 3I Atlas defied that force entirely. It was like watching a candle flame bending toward the heat instead of away from it. Nothing in physics should allow that to happen. The anti-tail was only the beginning. As the comet moved closer to the Sun, its brightness increased so sharply that observatories had to adjust their sensors to avoid overload. It became bluer in color, glowing with a light that outshone the Sun at specific wavelengths. Instruments on NASA's SOHO and stereo satellites both recorded the event, and the data matched perfectly. A comet shouldn't be able to emit light this way. Usually, color changes come from dust and gas reacting to solar heat, but this was far too fast and far too organized. The blue hue suggested energy release at a molecular level, something more like an electrical discharge than a thermal flare. For a brief moment, 3I Atlas looked alive, responding to the Sun instead of being consumed by it. Astronomers proposed several explanations, but none of them fit the facts. One theory suggested the object had internal vents releasing gas in a controlled burst, creating thrust in unexpected directions. Another claimed the composition of its dust was so unusual that sunlight scattered backward instead of forward. Both were tested and failed to account for the extreme color change and brightness surge. The energy output simply didn't match natural models. Some even began to wonder if the anti-tail wasn't a physical jet at all, but a directed reaction, something deliberate, like a maneuver. That idea was too uncomfortable for most scientists to discuss publicly, but it lingered in private emails and late-night meetings. Even more strange was how stable the object remained during the event. A normal comet under that kind of energy release would wobble, lose fragments, or disintegrate. 3I Atlas stayed steady. No debris, no fragmentation, no loss of mass that could explain the sudden surge of light. It seemed to absorb the sun's heat rather than reflect it, almost as if its surface was designed to manage energy instead of surrendering to it. For the first time, researchers began to wonder whether the anti-tail might not be a sign of destruction, but of control. By the time it left the sun's reach, its brightness began to fade back to normal levels, but the memory of that impossible jet remained. It was the sixth confirmed anomaly, joining a list that was growing too long to ignore. If nature could no longer explain what they were seeing, what would the next discovery reveal about this traveler from another star? Not long after the strange anti-tail event, another mystery appeared, one that made even veteran scientists question what they were seeing. 3I Atlas began to move faster than gravity alone could explain. Its speed increased slightly but steadily, showing a change so precise that it could not be random. In space, every object moves according to the same rule. Gravity pulls, nothing pushes. Yet somehow, this visitor from another star was accelerating as if something inside it had awakened. The data came from multiple observatories and all confirmed the same thing. There were no jets, no gas plumes, and no visible dust that could account for the motion. It was an acceleration without cause, the seventh major anomaly. The official term was non-gravitational acceleration, but the phrase didn't help much. It only made the mystery sound more technical, not more understandable. Normally, comets speed up because sunlight warms their icy cores, creating jets that push them forward like tiny rockets. But 3I Atlas showed no outgassing at all. Its surface was dry, its light steady, and yet it moved as if controlled by an invisible hand. Scientists at the ALMA array in Chile recorded a measurable optical shift of 4 arcseconds during the event, something small but statistically impossible without an external force. Even Einstein's theory of relativity could only explain part of it. What they were seeing didn't fit any known law of motion. Some researchers tried to compare it to Oumuamua, which had also shown slight acceleration when leaving the solar system. But this was different. Oumuamua's motion could still be debated. 3I Atlas was undeniable. It didn't drift or slow, it adjusted. That precision made it seem alive, or at least aware of its surroundings. If it had mass comparable to other interstellar objects, then even a small change in speed would require immense energy, far more than natural sunlight could provide. The energy needed to move it was equivalent to several nuclear explosions, yet there was no sign of heat, radiation, or impact. By now, the team at Harvard and several European observatories had stopped using the word comet altogether. They simply called it the object. To them, it no longer behaved like anything formed by nature. Its silence, its precision, and now its self-propelled motion turned it into something closer to a machine than a rock. Of course, no one could prove that, but one thing was certain. If gravity didn't move it, something else did. The question was, what or who had the power to guide a traveler across light years of empty space? And if that force existed, what would happen when it reached the edge of our solar system? By the time scientists logged the 9th anomaly, the data had started to look less like coincidence and more like a pattern. 3I Atlas wasn't just defying physics, it was echoing something familiar. Its direction of approach matched the coordinates of the famous WOW signal detected in 1977 with a deviation of only 9 degrees. That signal, a mysterious radio burst that lasted 72 seconds, had never been explained. For nearly 50 years, astronomers treated it as an isolated event. But now this interstellar object was arriving from almost the same region of space, glowing with strange light, carrying a chemical signature that didn't belong to any known comet. The alignment was too close, too deliberate to ignore. When researchers ran statistical models, the results were startling. The chance that two unrelated events, a radio signal and a comet's path, would share almost identical coordinates was less than 1%. Some dismissed it as another cosmic accident. Others quietly suggested that the signal might have been a beacon, and 3I Atlas the physical response. Together they painted a picture of something bigger than random physics, something that hinted at intent. The theory spread quickly across research circles, though no one dared to make it official. The idea that the universe might be sending a sequence, not just one strange visitor, was too controversial for publication. Even stranger was the timing. Oumuamua appeared in 2017, Borisov in 2019, and now 3I Atlas in 2025, three interstellar travelers discovered in less than a decade. Before this, astronomers expected to find only one such object every 10 or 20 years. The frequency didn't make sense. Either the galaxy was suddenly full of wandering debris, or someone or something was sending them on purpose. Each one carried a different anomaly, like a clue left for anyone watching closely enough to notice. Oumuamua moved too fast and changed speed without reason. Borisov looked normal but acted too stable. 3I Atlas combined both traits and added 7 more impossible behaviors. If this was a coincidence, it was a very organized one. A few scientists have begun to whisper about a new theory. What if these objects are not random visitors, but probes sent to study, observe, or test civilizations capable of detecting them? The idea sounds like science fiction, but the data is real. Maybe they were never meant to communicate, only to pass through quietly and see who would notice. As 3I Atlas draws closer to Earth, every telescope is waiting for the next sign, the next pattern, the next clue. But if this is part of something larger, a cosmic sequence written long before we existed, the real question might not be what it is, but whether we were supposed to find it at all. 3I Atlas has now broken 9 laws of comet physics, leaving the world staring into the unknown. Every rule of motion, chemistry, and light that once guided our understanding no longer applies. Whether it is a natural anomaly or something made with intent, this object has changed how we see the universe. It reminds us that space still holds questions science cannot yet answer. Every night, telescopes keep watching, waiting for its next move. Maybe nature is rewriting its rules, or maybe something else already has. Do you think 3I Atlas is a freak of physics or a message from beyond? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to mindgap for the next chapter of this mystery.